Good morning, everyone. So we got well, one of the big earnings out of the way, and that's gapping up here. Let's see exactly where. Over the top of that big red bar. That's a heck of a start. Not above the resistance. It was right up to it. And we'll see where this thing ends the week to see if this can hold on to the gain. So that would be a good start for institutions starting to feel somewhat safe. Led the way down before the report. I don't know what the number, I didn't listen to the numbers, so I don't know whether they were good or bad or indifferent, or obviously this is buyers buying whatever the numbers were. So putting in a very significant bottom at this point. No, I didn't want that. So we'll just put an alert down here, monitor it, and put an alert up there at the top of the range, which it didn't get to. We'll see whether it just stays in between here. And where is that putting the Qs? Gapping up to the top of the red bar. And this is what kind of what we were looking for at the beginning of the week, for this to retrace into this area of minor support in the moving averages. And now on the Microsoft news, whatever else is out there, I think Texas Instruments reported, I don't know what they're doing, but a semiconductor, so important, but gapping up to the top of the red bar. And that is not the ideal of scenario. I mean, coming down here was ideally gap down or any kind of a sell-off that turned into a bottoming tail or a reversal bar here. So now got it gapping up on the hourly chart, the middle of the range, but above that red bar. So obviously a positive start. How much institutions and traders want to commit to this with the next slew of earnings coming out after the close and the Fed announcement, we shall see. So one positive step. We'll see how the rest play out. Spiders didn't pull back as far yesterday, held at the 50. They could have fell a lot further, breaking that support. And you can see it came up to it and started to roll over, and then it didn't go anywhere. So news putting a lid on things. Otherwise, on a normal day, pattern like this and breaking would have, I'm sure it would have kept falling into the void below. So now gapping up into that resistance area, you can see on the hourly chart in the middle of the range there, on the weekly chart on the lower left. So, all right, positive, but so far not going anywhere. Too early to really say we've got anything here, especially with the Fed and the other earnings reports coming out. But the initial gap there is a start. And one of the things I mentioned yesterday was, this making the turn too soon could result, this, everybody's going to see this as a positive, because it's the only way to see it, right? Gap up above the high of a red bar like that. But whatever news follows this, if this moves up and doesn't make a significant move above here, and that's the unknown whether it'll do it or not. But if it just hangs here by the end of the week, and this is looking like it's faltering up here, I mean, well, we'll see what happens. I'm just throwing that out there to keep in mind while we have a positive event here. Here pre-market, this market isn't out of the woods as far as sellers taking control again. So we'll just have to see how far this goes. But this is a start. This is a start. Negating this distribution pattern right here and not falling down into the void. It's the beginnings. And futures You can see not really a big deal there. Up against resistance, could easily turn into a red bar. But the significance of the gap, this is where, it's always a little, not as crystal clear, let's say, when you start looking at um, the spiders and Qs and how they're gapping and the meaning of that versus looking the futures that trading 24 hours. So, they opened down here, as you can see the crosshairs, and it does look the same, recognizing the fact that, well, the close of this bar is over here, whereas where, you're looking at SPY, it's gapping up to the high of this bar. So while this resistance is here and it's going sideways, where we look for the spiders and Qs now, they gap up, they're into some resistance, and this is overnight, so they don't even have that resistance. You can see the time there along the bottom edge of the 60-minute chart, what time that is. And so the day ended here. So while it is up at this resistance, the futures are dealing with the overnight, and you've got two different charts that are in play here, the 24-hour chart and then the day chart. And so maybe we need to look at the 15 as to where this is at. Yeah, you can see it right over here. That it'll be going into at the open. So with that being said, you got the spiders gapping up into this resistance area. You've got the futures gapping, or not gapping, rallying up into a resistance area. I would not suggest being too quick on the draw for a long entry point. As far as SPX, all right, so let's take a look at that. So now we know that that's gapping up at around here. Right? Yes, FOMC day, and that could play havoc with everything. So, you have a choice, whereas anything you might do, hopefully it would be profitable always, and you can get out of the way, around lunchtime. So, let's see what's kind of juice there is up there. You could you go 40, 55 and hope the market comes in, right? So as it opens up in this area, does it start to falter? I think unlikely that it rallies and can get up to here, but look, if it stays up there, I really don't have a feel for, the time decay on these things. When they're moving fast, if it's going your way, it's fantastic. If it just sits there and does nothing, maybe it's good. Well, I think, McGraw, I think everybody's going to be nervous about any direction because the news is the unknown, and the different earnings reports that have come out, are they going to be good or bad? And a lot of these stocks are acting like they're not going to be great. I mean, that's why Microsoft is up. I really don't know the numbers. You're saying 80, 38, 40. I mean, doing nothing is a choice. 38, 40. I would agree that I would say it's not going down there, but yeah, the news. So look, that would be a reasonable level, and 40, 50 would be a reasonable level. And but with so much news coming out, well, the Fed mostly, because that's in the middle of the day, the earnings reports are at the end of the day. You're going to have to make your own choices, but those are what I would perceive to be relatively safe levels. All right. Qs. Yep, 39 interest, 3,900 big level, 4,000 big level. Qs, little turnaround, that could be a red bar, whatever. It's at resistance. maybe you know, go do a few honeydews or do something else, and or just sit back and watch. Uh, Come back at 12 o'clock. The Dow's been holding up pretty darn well, just chopping around here. At some point, winding the spring's got to cut loose. Yeah, I agree. Scalpers or do nothing. That's a little hook, but it's tight there. So what a pattern like this, my plan preference would be to have something like this happen within this time frame. And so I don't, we'd see if it would happen at the end of the day, but because this is kind of like a docile pattern, so to speak, like it moved up sharply and it's just tight here. I'd like to see a whipsaw. Could just be two candles like that. So I don't think it's going to happen, which could be a bottoming tail bar on one day, right? But a whip down and it comes back up again, which certainly could be the case by the end of the day. Bitcoin, we talked about, this is where it should find some buyers, and they are. It's not decisive yet. And crude oil down a little bit, got rejected yesterday, not uncommon after coming down like this. Do you know when inflation will be announced? Is it Monday? Well, just look at economic reports. I can tell you. Okay. It's just like nothing here that's really compelling. The euro rolled back over again. The dollar pulled back, and we mentioned that it was in an area where buyers were going to step up, and that's happening. So all the eyes are, the Fed at 2 o'clock or so, and then earnings after the fact. But the 3-month continues to push up. The dollar turning back up again. Everything is on path for that increase in interest rates. 0.75%. It's probably expected in what they're going to do, and then we'll see how this measure of interest rates, what does it do? If this keeps pushing up toward 275 or higher, the market's saying, Federal Reserve Powell, Mr. Powell, you ain't done yet. You're not letting you off the hot seat. If it starts dropping down here, that's something to start thinking about, these bottoming patterns and an intermarket relationship that could be supportive of that bottoming pattern. So we want to see that. You'd see the 5-year start to move down below here, or just sideways. So there's going to be this balancing act between interest rates a little less than what they are. They're not going to lower interest rates, and this holding up would probably be better than breaking down below here sharply, because that would point more towards stagflation. But we'll see how it plays out. And of course, the 10-year just hanging here on the support. So whether it's the bond market, equity markets, Bitcoin, things are just waiting for more news. You can look at some of the ags. This thing's taking the time to load it up there, but or even better yet, if I can get it loaded up quickly, industrial metals, to see if they start to perk up a little bit. So, well, that's it. Yeah, I can take a look at what's out there moving. I don't know why this is taking so much time to load. It's a little lazy this morning, but yeah, there's copper. That's not lifting up at all. So points more toward the stagflation scenario.
Good morning. Happy Fed Day. So, yeah, getting our reversal here. See if it holds. It's earnings season. I love. We got a ton of ideas. I posted on here. I'll post it again here for the latecomers. A bunch of earnings I couldn't tell gap, so we'll obviously go through this again, but a couple there I like so far. BSX, and our inventory is very light. If you have any questions, just ask. So BSX, gap breakout, looks great. ADP, can't quite tell where it's gapping, but if it does gap up here to 221, then I like it. SYK, McGraw, I was trying to sell puts naked on this yet into earnings. This was the best bottoming pattern I could find yesterday. Let's see. And we would have done a call debit spread, but they were too illiquid. But that's exactly the pattern I love speculating on earnings. And so I'll be watching it again. ENPH, gap breakout. I'll be looking for a put spread, said G, gap breakout, Hilton. Screen is not changing. I don't hear anybody else complaining. Is my screen changing, folks? It sounds like something stuck on your end. Hilton, gap breakout. So there's so many put spreads, and if they set up, I'll do them ahead of Fed, just as a calculated risk. What else? Boeing is up, but there's no good pattern there. Garmin. This is the it's recovering here. Look, it was down at 93, and I was going to consider a 30-minute high doing a put spread, but it's already recovered $4. So I have that in a window. Hilton, Tech, bottoming pattern, 30-minute high. Teradyne getting beat up. So it's relative weakness in a strong market, but still a Wall Street loved. Semis are gapping up. They passed that. Greg, remember I was making fun of that welfare bill, corporate welfare. They said, oh, it's 50 billion, and then yesterday's paper said no, it was 252. Guess what? Today's paper calls it 270. It's like they just keep throwing crap pork into the very last second. It's just so pathetic. I told Greg last night, I heard this congressman talking. He said, if the United States government were a corporation, they would be in the business of manufacturing money. Think of it, that kind of really sunk home with me. That's all they do is they just sit back and they're experts at manufacturing money and spending. Don't get me started. All right, Spot. Did Spot was earnings today? I don't know if it's pre or post, but it's sure acting like it's pre. Well, that's a big gap. We'll come back to you. Roblex is not earnings, but it's one. I love this weekly, so I maybe it sets up for next week. All right, thanks. So yeah, let's keep an eye on that for put spread. So Roblex is not ready, but I don't want it to be ready. I want it to chop around here a little bit more, and then we'll buy it next week. HKD, recent IPO. That's a strange gap down here at $52 going flat. Wow, that's trading pretty wildly. And Carvana, again, it's not an earnings thing, but I saw it going by, and it is trying hard to bottom. And if it does turn out to be the bottom, it sure has room to go up. So it's another one. Just watch it every day. Thomas, there's so many things going to be gapping up, but Thomas, number one, we got to focus on the best ones. Number two, I don't see any pre-market prints here, so I do not trust any gap up. Sava getting its head chopped off here, 1450. I think that's a bio. Yeah, Google's on the list, of course. The monsters, obviously. I would prefer this week though, McGraw. It's not a great pattern, but so I would prefer just for Friday. Microsoft is a better pattern. Gapping over this red bar, big old bottom. So Microsoft is superior. So yeah, that's on my list for a put spread, Microsoft. Oh, Humana is on my list for a call spread, gapping down here, 482. So that's the gap's making that a little topping pattern. Now Shop was getting its head kicked in this morning, gapping down to 29. But look, the fact that it negated the gap. So, we're going to do an MT live in a month or two, trading on news, and that's a sign of relative strength, that it won't go down on bad news. Doesn't mean buy it, but it's just something to say to take note of. All right, Juniper's gapping down at 30-minute low. You could short it. 10B gapping down, but that's down a lot now. I don't know. We can find better than that. Tech I mentioned, IEX. I can't tell where you're gapping. We can find better. Ash, we can find better. Humana, we talked about. Navi. I see one print at 1638, but it's not liquid, so I don't trust it. But if it is 1638, then 30-minute high. FXLV, this looks like it's going to the graveyard. Look at that nasty downtrend now, getting chopped in half. Now Boyd, I don't see much volume, but 30-minute high, maybe put spread. Whiskey Mike gapping up. So McGraw, put spread watch. Whiskey Mike. And the out of the money puts were illiquid, and so we might have to do a naked one. I can't tell where you're gapping here. We can find better. TMUS 137. There's just nothing to do with that. Actually, it could be a condor. TEL, no pattern. We can find better. TDY. Light volume, but if it can, today's Wednesday, I would say if it can take out Monday's high, then put spread idea. We'll come back to you. Slab. See that this is a big company, I thought, and there's zero prints pre-market on earnings. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Sherwin getting smacked 223, but all right. So this is an example of a potential excessive gap that 30-minute high I will consider, maybe a day trade, but out of the money 2 DTE puts. A shoe popping here, but no pattern. SCL, no pattern, and light volume. PRG, no pattern. PEG, I can't see any gap, but if it gets over last week's high, McGraw, no brainer put spread. Monroe, I don't see any prints. Maho, no prints, but no pattern. I'm gonna delete you. Lima Whiskey, it's opening, well, it actually gapped down and now it's recovering. But if this takes out last weekend's high, I like it. I'm gonna set an alarm at 75.60. SM, that's a bottoming pattern. McGraw 28 put spread if there's any juice. Yes, and a pattern driven, gapping at 31. We'll come back. Cool. Gap breakout 43, but it's a big gap to resistance, so no interest. CME. So here's another one. CME earnings, and there's not one single print pre-market. So this is just a sideways trading range. I have no idea what to do with the B-Fly. We actually bought this over here. Stopped out, break even. Weekly. I don't know. It came in hard. Bravo Golf. 96. That's, I don't know. We'll come back to you. A Post. I had an up alarm. PSN up alarm going off. Tick 1200. All right, so, oh shoot, I got filled on that put spread I posted pre-market. Let's see which one it was. Oh, SEDG. I got filled on SEDG at $3. All right, post. Let's move stop break even, then 30-minute low. Hey, Greg, I missed your thing again. You're from YouTube. Next time, just holler at me if I'm missing. He's saying PXD, good put spread. It's sloppy. We can find a whole lot better unless it takes out yesterday's high. And I don't have time to be pretty here. All right, so let's see where SEDG is. I can't believe I got filled at $3, and I just totally kind of just made up that number. All right, it's showing I'm down, unrealized loss, but that's because of the stupid spreads, which, well, I did the 250, 200. Let's see where the midpoint is right now.